Well, still on the same, we'll turn to Newsnight tonight, and our guest this evening is Rita Aciro, the Executive Director of UONET, Uganda Women's Network. A very warm welcome, Rita.
Thank you, Josephine, and good evening to the listeners and viewers.
All right, well, we'll jump right in, Rita. You probably were watching the proceedings in Parliament this afternoon. What did you think?
Well, when I heard the President talk, I could see he's equally angry, just like any citizen in this country. And he's rightly so to be angry. All this happening under his watch, a president who's been here for 30 years plus. So I could understand his anger. But the 9-point program, if I could call it that, to me, one of the issues I expected the president to talk about was to give us an account. If you remember, Josephine, we've lost close to 30 women in Wakiso and Entebbe. And I remember at that time, as women's rights organizations, we actually stood up to try and raise an alarm that this is not acceptable. I remember the president visiting, and some of these were actually happening around State House in Entebbe area. But it seems that did not ring a bell. Then, of course, the high-profile cases started coming up. So for me, one of the things I really expected from that anger was to bring out an account, what has happened so far, what government has done in terms of investigation. Because what I really want for the citizens to regain confidence in government, that action is being taken. We cannot...
Rita, he mentioned and especially about the Entebbe killings, and he mentioned that he actually went to the scene because at first he left it all to the police thinking they were in charge of this situation, and he eventually went by and he found out that one of the girls who was killed was constantly on her phone, and then immediately after, the people who were responsible were caught and they were found to be people that were selling jackfruit about the area. And so he put the blame on vigilance, really.
So whose problem is that? Is it a problem of the citizenry? Is it a problem of the state? One of the issues I really agree with him in that statement is we need to educate our people. And for a very long time, as human rights organizations, we've been calling for resources around civic education. That's about citizens' rights, but at the same time about the obligation, because government is us. And we have to participate. So how are citizens going to participate without the knowledge? He was talking about involvement in the crime scene. An ordinary citizen wouldn't know that unless government invests in citizens' knowledge, building citizens' competence. And you can clearly see our citizens do not know what to do in what situation.
And what not to do.
And know what not to do.
Yeah, well, Rita, when you speak about the unresolved murders and the kidnappings and things like that that have been happening to the women, there's been a group of women and human rights activists and different women coming up and saying, look, we want them to actually know that we are bothered by these things and we'd like something done. And I know there's been marches that have been planned. Mm-hmm. What do you think about that?
The marches, you know, what the saying goes that a desperate situation calls for a desperate solution. The women of Uganda, and of course I guess all the citizens out there, would like to see our government be in charge, take action, provide accountability, you know, give an account, a 24-hour account. I remember this last year I was on this same TV station with one of the police officers, and when I told him what we want is an account. We cannot, even in the most developed world, crimes happen, but it's what happens after the crime happens is what we need to see to rebuild the citizens' trust in the state. And that is what the women are calling for. One woman, another, and another, and then you have the kidnaps. All this happening, but nobody's doing anything, and the women decided to say, you know, let's organize a march. Yeah, let's organize a march. This is not acceptable. Let the state give us an account.
But look at how that turned out as well.
I know.
I would like to know what civil society organizations are doing in regard to this, because I think that security, as much as we would want to put all of it on the government and the security forces, it's everybody's responsibility at the end of the day to do what they can for themselves.
You know, Josephine, one of the most dangerous things is to have a citizenry that is ignorant. And I want to go back to the point of civic education. You know, many times we miss or we mix civic education and voter education.
Yeah.
Those are totally two different things. Civic education is about educating the citizenry about their rights and their obligations. So when you talk about what are the citizens doing, or what are NGOs doing, or human rights organizations doing, we can only do that much. It is government's responsibility to ensure that the citizens understand the Constitution, first and foremost, as it is. What are their rights? What are their responsibilities? And that takes investment. It takes deliberate effort. It takes leadership.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Rita. Unfortunately, our time has quickly run out, but thank you for taking the time to speak to us about today's proceedings in Parliament.